Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of KleenWerks Auto Detailing. My name is Mac. Today we're going to be working on something pretty cool, pretty original. So original in fact that it still has the factory tires on the car, and the car is over 15 years old. Very low mileage example of one of these. So anyway, let's just get to it. I've been getting a decent amount of low mileage examples of cool cars, and this Cobra happens to be one of them. This is a 2003 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra convertible in super original condition. The black paint could definitely use some work. It's funny because the car has 15,000 miles, but the paint looks like it has 150,000 miles. The convertible top is in pretty good shape, so a light clean should do the trick. This goes to show that no matter how much you love your car and how many miles it has, you can completely screw it up by not knowing how to conduct proper wash procedures. The interior is in very good shape, not much to talk about here. The car has a 4.6 liter supercharged V8 with a 6-speed manual, rear-wheel drive, and a whole lot of fun. For you Ford nerds out there, you'll notice there's a cover missing over the supercharger pulley. That was showing some wear, so I have removed it and prepped it for paint. I'm using a floor jack to lift up the car so I can have a bit more room to clean the wheel wells. I do this on cars that sit pretty low so I can make sure all the dirt and grime gets blasted away. I have a certain standard, so I do this on most cars. However, is this necessary? No. Is it very helpful and easy? Yes, and it'll make the overall results that much better. I'm using my favorite degreaser and an assortment of brushes to get the wheel well and tire clean. I do these areas first before I even touch the wheel or rim, because that's just my process and what I'm comfortable with. As you can see, lifting the car up gives me a ton of more access to areas I normally not be able to clean with the car sitting level on the ground. Moving on to the wheels themselves, they're not in bad shape at all, just some light brake dust and dirt. I'm using P&S knockoff wheel cleaner, and you guys gotta buy this. I'm not sponsored or anything, but this wheel cleaner, in my opinion, is the best on the market, and you can dilute it all the way from 4:1 to 20:1 depending on your use and level of soil. As always, I start with a pre-soak, use a brush to agitate all the edges, emblems, trim, and so on and so forth. The exterior isn't filthy by any means, nor is there a lot of contamination on the paint. While there's scratches and swirls, the sheer cleanliness of the paint is generally really good on this Cobra. However, that doesn't mean I'll be skipping that step, as it is necessary for paint correction. Alright guys, so the Cobra is rinsed. I'm gonna go ahead and start the decon process, and unfortunately I'm not going to film that just because I'm kind of losing daylight out here, and I kind of have to do that before it gets dark and cold outside. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll pull you guys in a little closer to take a look at the paint. Now that the car is clean, we can take a deeper dive into what we're actually working with here. The headlights have this weird fogging or haze to them, probably from prior quote-unquote hand waxing or something along those lines. At least holes have not been drilled into the front bumper. I personally find them annoying if there's no bracket. Underneath some proper lighting, we can see that this black paint needs attention, and it needs it bad. It's more blue than it is black with all the imperfections. The front of the hood has a lot of peppered rock chips that I will be addressing later on in the detail. This was an interesting pattern I came across while inspecting. It looks like there was some sort of sticker on the door at one point which left behind some adhesive. I guess someone tried to remove the adhesive but got impatient, causing this marring and damage. So before I actually start hammering away at this car, let's talk about how this happens. When you detail a car, you have to minimize your risk factor as much as possible. That's basically what you hire a professional detail for. They know how to do it right. You know, if you drop your wash mitt on the ground and you use it on your paint, that's a big no-no. You have to be conscious of how much pressure you apply when it comes to actually detailing your car, if that makes any sense. So, for example, that's why the flat surfaces of this car are pretty torn up, like the top of the trunk lid, the hood, you know, things that when I go and wash it, I just subconsciously want to rest my hand against here, or some of my body weight, right? So therefore, I'm kind of, whatever is in my wash mitt, even though I did everything in my power to stop it, you know, stuff happens, the world isn't perfect. So the more pressure you apply, the more risk you have of basically screwing the car up. But it's here for it to be fixed. I'm actually very excited to get started on it. So I did do a test spot already on the top of the fender. You guys might have seen it. But yeah, just enjoy the paint correction. It's getting a 2-stage. So the general rule that I just talked about applies to any sort of car. You know, paint is paint, it's delicate. So I'm only doing this and talking about this is because I'm working on a, you know, low mileage black car. On a black car, you're gonna see everything. And, you know, there's a quote in the industry, black isn't a color, it's a full-time job. So yeah, if you buy a black car, you have to maintain it. And if you don't, this is the kind of thing that happens. And, you know, there's people like me out there in the world that get to work on them and fix them. So anyway, I'll show you what I'm gonna be using. If I'm doing a 2-stage correction, then I'm using Jescar's correcting compound with their cutting pad. And then I'm gonna follow up with Sonax Perfect Finish and a yellow Rupes fine pad. You don't really necessarily have to use any of the brands of pads, but you do need a microfiber cutting disc paired up with that compound and just your, you know, medium to fine polishing pad followed up with Perfect Finish. If you do this, then we can go from here to results like these on the top of the fender. So there are a lot of things out on the market when it comes to detailing. So there's not really a best polish or worst this or best that. None of that really matters. What it comes down to is personal preference. I buy new things all the time. I, try to improve my efficiency or, whatever. But what I have been using for basically a really, really long time is, if I'm doing a 2-stage, it's this duo right behind me. Also, before you guys yell at me in the comments that I put bottles on the paintwork, we're doing a 2-stage correction. We're not really putting more damage into the paintwork that's gonna make any sort of a difference. So I'm sure it's gonna be fine. I can't wait to see this thing when it's all done. We're gonna make it look like it has 15,000 miles. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I didn't film everything step by step just because it takes a while, and when it comes to something like paint correction, it's pretty straightforward. You do one panel at a time and you make your way around the car. There are a few things that I didn't film. I touched up some rock chips that were all over the front of this hood right here, as well as some other areas of the car. I did an interior detail. Engine bay is clean. I put the supercharger pulley cover back on, dressed up the tires, dressed up the plastic, cleaned all the windows. It's good to go. I firmly believe that we just turned this super original Cobra, so original that it still has the tires on it from the factory. I still can't get over that. We literally turned it into what is now what I would consider a 100% collector car. I mean, it's as good as it's gonna get. There are a few inferior paint conditions, but we're not really gonna worry about that. There's really nothing that we can do about it. Further detailing is required, or even a little bit of paint work, but it looks like a completely different car. I mean, just check it out. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comments. I read them. I tend to get back to most of them. So if you have anything that you want to say, just put it down in the comments and I'll be sure to respond. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of KleenWerks Auto Detailing, and I'll see you next time. But in the meantime, stay clean.